Hello, this is Sally Wienergrada, and this is the Arts and Letters Show. Today I'm with R.A. Friedman, who is a remarkable photographer in the old sense of a crafting photographer, someone who really seriously works composition and light and shadow. I happen to have met R.A. through Facebook, where I'm meeting a lot of very interesting people, but we don't live that far from each other, and we became friends, which is quite a delight. And RA now has a very interesting project, so before I do anything else, I want to get him online with me. Hi, RA, how you doing?
Good. How are you? And congratulations on your book release.
Oh yes, that's exciting, isn't it?
Yes.
The Winter Boy is going to be published this Thursday, so that's pretty neat. My next novel. Thank you for mentioning it.
My
So
pleasure.
you you have a project called, what was it? Photography Squared, or
Actually, Photographers Squared. Yes. Yes.
why Squared? What's it mean? The title.
Well, there are two photographers, so it's sort of to the power of two if you're mathematically inclined. Also, I am shooting an older square format film camera, a Hasselblad, which makes a 6 by 6 centimeter negative.
One of
And
my
so
favorites.
one of my favorites too. And so the other half of this project, very talented photographer and teacher in New York named Mindy Vasid. She will be shooting digitally, but she will be cropping down her images to square formats so that they mirror and play off of one another.
And what is it that you're going to be doing with this project?
Okay. The project actually was originally Mindy's idea. She had thought about doing this kind of project for quite some time. And what happened was we were having lunch one day with my cousin, who is also a fine photographer, and she mentioned it, that she had always wanted to do sort of a kind of shoot-off, a kind of head-to-head exhibition of work where two photographers photograph the same subject and then see what happens. And we kind of took it from there. We added an element of adventure to it. We're both working professionals, so the idea of a road trip very much appealed to us, but we realized it was not practical. So we decided that the best thing to do would be to do this over a series of shorter trips that we would fly to various corners of the US that were randomly chosen, mutually agree on subject matter, and then I would shoot with the Hasselblad. She would limit the number of shots for each subject to 12, essentially a roll of film. Mm-hmm. And then we would do 5 images from each location to make a corpus of work of 25 side-by-side images, essentially a show and a book of 50 images that we would then publish. Sort of dovetailing with that, we realized that we're going to be traveling, we're going to be going to these remote areas. We really wanted to share the inspiration and the passion for what we were doing. So we added another component that kind of fit very beautifully with the project, which would be that we'd be meeting with high school art classes and photo clubs and various community groups along the way, giving them a presentation very similar to the one that we did at B&H at their project space recently, and also which will also happen in Philly tomorrow, and really just kind of meeting one-on-one with people. I thought a lot about my early experiences in photography, not in New York City, even though I am a New York boy, but I spent my high school years in a tiny little town called Grahamsville, New York, and how much I pined for professional contact with someone who was really out there photographing in the professional world. As it happened, I got incredibly lucky. My father, through my grandparents, met a photographer who had a place in the Catskills that he went to on the weekends to do his darkroom work. and I ended up working for him, and that it changed my life. I mean, I entered the world of professional photography at the young age of 15.
Marvelous. And so you want to bring this to other high school students around the country?
Absolutely. We want to bring them as basically a big yes. Yes, you can survive professionally. Yes, you can follow your creative vision and your passion and your inspiration. Now, of course, we will give them a balanced presentation. We will also tell them you will probably work 80 hours a week, but you'll be doing what you love.
Right, right. Their parents won't thank you.
No, they won't. They much rather they take a normal 9-to-5 job.
Now tell me about how you and Mindy are going to work together. Are you going to set up your tripods at the same location and limit your vision, or are you simply going to say, okay, I am photographing this section of the area, you do your interpretation, I do mine? How are you going to do that?
Okay, that's a very good question. It's going to be very, very much side-by-side shooting. No tripods, by the way. It's going to be very, very light equipment. In fact, part of the specifications of the project is it's one camera, one lens, and for me it's one IX, which I love to shoot on. Mindy is shooting with I think a Canon 5D and I think it's a 28-70 lens.
Is she allowed to zoom it?
She's allowed to zoom it, yeah. I don't get to zoom. I'm just shooting with the 80mm Carl Zeiss lens, which I love. So I only get the basic normal angle of view.
Well, that will definitely give you a difference in vision. How do the two of you see the same scene differently?
I think a lot of it comes down to sort of how we both process what we see as photographers. Mindy is much more involved with being intuitive and in the moment and really kind of living through the experience and then attempting to capture it with the camera. I tend to work in a much more studied kind of manner. I know we did I guess sort of a test or sort of shakedown shoot at Wave Hill in the Bronx. It's a beautiful estate that overlooks the Hudson. And shooting side by side, Mindy was practically done with her subject, and I'm still taking light meter reading and figuring out where the various zones are going to fall in the black and white negative, and making sure I'm not losing my shadows or blowing out my highlights. So it's a very, very different kind of way of working, which leads to a very, very different look, especially compositionally. I think my work tends to be much more geometric, for one thing, if in a formal sense.
Yes, yeah, you do some very interesting geometric work. So there are two portions to the next question. What will the viewers of the exhibit or of the book get from this experience? Obviously, you and Mindy are going to have a fabulous experience, but what will others get from looking at these pictures?
Well, I'm a big believer, and I can't speak for Mindy, but I'm guessing that she would concur with this. I'm a big believer in sort of what Alfred Stieglitz called the equivalent effect. That is, at least some of what you're experiencing, at least some of what you're experiencing in the moment while you're photographing or over that time period that you're photographing, hopefully gets sort of transmitted or stored in the photograph, and that starts to show. So what I'm hoping is that we'll be able to find sort of these little unseen treasures as we travel across the United States. We're definitely not going to photograph anything iconic.
Sorry.
We're not going to the Grand Canyon. We're not we're not going to photograph national monuments. We're really going to look for the sort of unseen treasures that exist in little pockets around the U.S. that, by the way, we chose randomly. We chose an East Coast location, West Coast location, South, and then also North. So the locations so far that we have are Steamtown, up by Pittsburgh. I believe that's up by Pittsburgh in the northern part of Pennsylvania.
Actually, I believe it's in Scranton.
Yeah, okay. Um, um, Nez Perce National Park in Idaho.
Ooh.
Joshua Tree National Park. We actually got 2 national parks, but it was purely random. Joshua Tree National Park in at the border between Arizona and California, and there's one other location that I can't remember at the moment. And there's a fifth one. There's a fifth one that will be chosen by people who attend the various presentations that we do, and also who are connected to us via social media and so forth. And we'll do a drawing out of a hat probably when we're ready to pick the 5th location.
Now, the other part of the question is you were talking about working with high school kids.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the inspiration of being around fellow photographers who are actually doing something professional, what do you hope to teach the kids beyond the idea you can do it?
Well, yeah, that's always a tricky question. You know, photography teaching has often, I think a lot of people sometimes get turned off by the sort of overly technical side of photography teaching. Mindy is very much into doing a much more intuitive approach to the work, and sort of letting the technical part sort of come later. I guess I'm a little bit more technically oriented, possibly because I have a science background initially. But I think the thing that we're going to be bringing to them is that largely it doesn't matter what kind of gear you have. You don't have to wait to take photographs. You don't have to wait to start realizing your vision. That you can make great photographs with a $30 camera or $20 plastic camera that you buy off the web. That it's really working within the limitations of your equipment. And I will actually show example photographs that I've taken. Actually, I have a few in my presentation, some that were taken with some cameras that, you know, the used camera store, when you would go to trade them in, would probably go, what? I'll give you $5, you know.
It's the camera, it's not the camera, it's the photographer's eye and mind that creates a picture, always.
Absolutely, and you know, and the one thing that I'm going to emphasize as well is that there is so much free information now online, especially that people are doing YouTube tutorials, and there's online information. So you pretty much can, you know, find out what you need to know pretty much to operate almost any kind of camera at this point online. Of course, the information may not be perfect, but at least it's a starting point. The main thing is, you know, turn off your cell phone or put it on vibrate, get off of Facebook, get off the couch, turn off the TV, and go out and take some pictures. That's really what I want to. That's really what I want to encourage people to do.
Marvelous. Now, you have a presentation in Philadelphia tomorrow night. Where,
Yes.
when, and how do people get to it?
Okay, it's at the Physic House. It's 321 North. Wait, let me make sure. 321. I believe it's South 4th Street in Philadelphia. I don't have this in front of me. I believe it is 6:30 to 8:30. But I would double check the time. I'm pretty sure that is correct.
How do they double check the time? Is there a website they can check?
Yes. And I was going to tell them, go on to philalandmarks. I believe it's .org, and they have a calendar, and it should pop up. We're about the 3rd or 4th one down. We're asking the people RSVP to me, to my Gmail account, which is also on the website.
Could you give that to us now?
Yes, absolutely. It's R.A. Friedman. It's the letter R, letter A. So it's just like raw, FRIEDMAN @gmail.com. The last name, I'll give it one more time. It's R.A. Friedman, letter R, letter A, FRIEDMAN at Gmail.
So if they can't find the website, they could contact you directly.
Absolutely, and I will even answer.
And is there a website for the project yet?
Yes, there is. For the Photographer Squared website, we have what we call a project portal, which allows you to go over to Kickstarter, watch our progress. We got an enormous boost today with a backer backing at the highest level, at the $1,500 level.
Congratulations! Wow.
Which was really like a huge sort of moral kick in the pants, morale kick in the pants, which was great.
Yes.
But if you go to photographers-squared.com, that's the project portal, and you can find the Kickstarter link there. And there are also links to my website, our page on Facebook. You can also find us on Facebook just by going to Photographer Squared, and you can also go to Kickstarter just by putting Photographer Squared in the search, and it will come up as well.
Marvelous. And by the way, folks, RA does some very, very interesting street photography, and also sort of, would it be correct to say punk event photography? Would that be the right?
Yeah, I guess it's a lot of the photography that I had been doing sort of up to recently was all done with instant peel apart black and white film using
Yes.
vintage cameras, and hot lights is basically shooting the way that the old photo studios worked. And a lot of them have been steampunk events, vintage events, Jazz Age events. I've shot at the Jazz Age lawn party a number of times. And then there have also been sort of combinations of vintage and digital sort of homemade cameras that I've worked with. This last event that I did for Halloween, we did some crazy lighting effects with strobe to kind of give a kind of Frankenstein's laboratory look. So I really enjoy that kind of challenge.
Yeah. Well, I wish you lots of luck with the project. I'm sorry I won't make it to your event tomorrow, but that's when I head to DC for the launch of Winter Boy. But maybe when you go up to Steamtown, I don't live that far from there, you can stop by.
That would be wonderful. The B&H presentation should be going up online too very, very soon on YouTube. And I believe, I don't want to speak for B&H, but I'm pretty sure that they said they were going to fast track it, and it might even be featured as the sort of featured event.
Marvelous.
Video of the month, but that's only hearsay at this point. I don't want to say that's a definite.
Well, I wish both you and Mindy lots of luck with the project. Thank you so much for being on Arts and Letters.
Thank you.
And I lost my mouse, so there we are. I'm actually not at my computer, but at Daniel's computer. He has a wireless mouse. You have to wake it up every time. So thank you everyone for joining us on Arts and Letters Hangout. Daniel was sorry not to be with us today, but we were with R.A. Friedman, who is one of those photographers I admire a great deal, and I hope you will take a look at his site. Thank you very much.
Thank you.